Welcome back to Grumpy Vet Garage. I'm the Grumpy Vet Dino, and today we're doing the next step on our Supra build. In a previous video, well, in a couple previous videos, we did some mods to the car: charge pipe by Ford Motorsports, intake by AFE, and we did a catted down pipe. Um, I mentioned that I wasn't sure what other bolt-on performance parts we'd be able to do without doing some tuning. I mulled over the idea of, do I go JB4 from Burger Motorsports, or do I send my ECU out to Fem2 in Finland to get a partial unlock? A few viewers have reached out to me, and I tend to agree with what they were saying, and I went ahead and purchased a JB4 from Burger Motorsports. I don't think I have any delusions about what this can bring to us. I understand that a flash tune is what you want to do, but the inability for a full unlock on a post June 2020 Supra made it seem like this might be the way to go. And also, this could get us to our power goals, and also be something that you could do on your vehicle, because they make JB4s for numerous other vehicles. So before I show you what comes in the box, if you like this channel and you like this kind of content, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps the channel grow. Also, we have merch. This is a Grumpy Vet Garage Supra specific shirt that is on the Grumpy Vet Garage store. Link to that website is in the description. But let's go ahead and look and see what's in the box of the JB4. Okay, here's all what comes in the box with the JB4. You get a sticker. Very important to get a sticker. This is the Bluetooth module that you can purchase to connect the JB4 to your phone, and I recommend getting this. Other ways to connect, you have to use like a USB cable to a computer. It's not as convenient as the Bluetooth module. And then it comes with a couple screws here to attach it. You actually have to attach it to the JB4 box. Here's your OBD2 port connector. This is what you're going to run through the firewall to connect to the JB4, which will be mounted in the engine bay. And then here's the JB4 box itself. We'll open it up here in a moment to connect the Bluetooth module. But you can see connectors here for this. I believe this should be for the wastegate. And then this one here, this should be for the map sensor that's on the charge pipe. And then this one here should be the T-map that's on the actual manifold. And then this is the connector that goes to your OBD2 connector to connect to the JB4. This is also how the JB4 is powered. It's powered through the OBD2 port. Let me get the box over here real quick. No instructions come in the actual box itself, but you go onto their website to get the individual instructions for your particular model. But with the box, you can see, granted, this is for a B58 for a Supra, but I don't know all the different models that they make JB4s for, but as you can see on the box, it appears to be quite a bit. So if you're watching this and you don't have a Supra or B58, they very well may have a tuner that would work on your vehicle as well. But that's what comes in the box. So now we're going to move on to connecting this Bluetooth module to the actual JB4 itself. Actually, before I get too far, on the connectors, you can see where they have really nice covering on the wiring, and then heat shrink the ends. But the wires on the actual plugs are exposed. I mean, that's mainly because when they were making the harness, I'm assuming that these wires came from the JB4, and then they made it model specific by putting it on here. But this wire is now exposed. This one is not as bad, and these are really close to the main branch of the harness, so they don't really have to worry about that. But this one here is very exposed. There's a lot of wiring that is not covered. Don't really like that myself. In previous videos on my Silverado, I talked about, let me see if I can get it in there. Tessa tape. And this is a fabric style tape for covering electrical wires. So I'm going to cover these wires because you really don't want to have bare wires like this in your engine bay. Okay, so to install the Bluetooth module, you have to open up the JB4. So I have it flipped over and you'll see 4 Allen screws that need to be removed. I'm using a 2.5 millimeter Allen screw. It doesn't seem to fit the best, but I have a whole set of standard screws plus metric, and this is the one that seems to fit the best. Granted, these screws are not meant to be smoked down. There's not going to be a torque setting per se on these. It's going to be remove the cover, and then when you put it back, you're going to snug them down. So all the screws are removed, and then you'll take the backer and separate it, in theory. Trying to do this behind a camera is not the best way. There we go. So there's a good fit to it, which is good. It's what you want. But there are the 2 halves. You can see the nice billet aluminum. But we're going to be connecting this JB4 module right here. So there's a plug to keep water out right there. So we're going to pull that, set it aside. And looking at the actual module, you can see it's keyed. So there's 5 pins on top and 4 pins on the bottom. And here we'll see where there's 5 pin sections and then 4 pin sections on the bottom. So it's going to go right in here. So you can lift up the module. Be very careful. You don't want to break anything. You'll lift it up. You see how it's keywayed, and then you will turn around and plug it in. It shouldn't be forced in. It should go in relatively easy. So you're just wanting to make sure these screws are snug. You don't have to be Hercules. You don't want to strip this out. None of this is going to require any kind of major torque. So now that that's done, you're going to place this all back into the enclosure. You want to make sure it's seated. And now the plug is now going to be the seal. You want to make sure to get this O-ring back into so that it can seal. Granted, this shouldn't be submerged in water, but you want to keep as much moisture out as possible. So now you would take this enclosure top and place it back down. Now I'm going to take the screws and I'm going to slowly run them back down. Again, you don't want to cross thread them and you don't want to over tighten them. The module's installed. Got all of the screws back, snugged down. My advice to you on this is just make sure to take your time. This is going to end up being a snug fit. You don't need to get anything that's going to strip out any of the screws. Just take your time, make sure you're threading it in carefully, and you'll be good to go. But now let's move over to the car and start the actual install. To prepare the install of the JB4, I went ahead and took the liberty of removing some items that we've gone over before, and then some that are just pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go over them now. You're going to need to remove the cover over the brake master cylinder and booster, because this compartment is where they designed the JB4 to be housed. Wiring is going to run through the weather stripping area here above the ECU or the DME. I went ahead and removed the DME cover because we're going to try to tuck the wires down here to make it look more like it's a factory install. The 3 connectors that are going to be tapped into, one is the T-map sensor, so it's going to be this one right here on top of the intake. And then it's going to be the map sensor that's on the charge pipe. And then let me step around the camera. And there's going to be the wastegate connector that's going to have to be disconnected, and it's going to tee in there too. I went ahead and removed the airbox, and I removed the catch can engine cover as well. I want to give you the best look at what I'm actually doing here. Also, when you disconnect your air intake, I placed a microfiber towel over the opening and used the hose clamp for my aftermarket intake to hold that on there. You don't want debris or tools or anything to get up into this tube and get down in front of your turbo. So with the JB4 placed in the bay for the brakes right here, you can see where they want you to put the wiring. So in the picture, in the instruction, it has it going this way. I don't suggest doing that. There's two plastic clips, one here and one here, that you can lift up with a tool like that. It's a plastic trim remove tool. I'll link these in the description. But yeah, this is what you want to use. You won't damage those clips, and you can lift those clips up, and then this whole section comes off. With that removed, you can see I ran the JB4 cable right here along the factory cable, and you can see this is kind of squishy right here, and this can fit underneath that clip. So we'll secure that, but not right now. And we can run it around the front like the factory wiring goes. So it runs here underneath the strut bar, again, factory wiring. And then you see the clip right here where the factory DME cover goes. If you run the wiring just like that, you can turn around and place this cover back, and the wiring now can come out from the DME cover just like any factory wiring would. What I did was I also routed it next to this cover, next to this attachment point for the engine cover, and I have the wiring going underneath. I believe this is a vapor line. And then I had it go underneath this vapor line too. Be careful with these lines. They're a little stiff. You don't want to break them. But if you run the wiring, the connectors here, you can slip the wiring further up. And then here, I disconnected the vapor line here and it lifted up. And I was able to get the connectors underneath. So here are the two T-MAP connectors that are going to go right here. Sorry, I was shaking the camera. Here's the map sensor connectors that are going to go right here. And then I haven't figured out the wiring route that I want to go with the electronic wastegate yet. But I went ahead and removed the heat shield, which is this right here. Really nice. Snaps. Remove those snaps. And this connector right here is the connector we're going to have to tap into. But used the tester tape and cleaned up the wiring a little bit for the map sensor. You can really see here with the external wastegate sensor, I just covered up those wires so they're not bare down there anymore. Give them a little bit of protection. Again, utilizing the, let me see if I can get it in there, tester tape. So I went ahead and ran and connected the T-MAP sensor right there, that jumper. So you can see the plug right here, and then here is the other side for the JB4. And then coming forward, I ran the wiring here. I haven't secured it yet, we have to wait. And then here, the map sensor, so I connected there, and then here is the JB4 jumper to the factory wiring. And then I came across the front. And again, I'm going to connect this somehow, zip tie it, maybe run it another way, but right now I'm thinking of just zip tying it through here and then have it come down next to this bundle. And then I'm hoping you can see that. So here's the JB4 plug, and then here's the factory, and then the JB4 jumper right there. So I'm going to try to get the silver heat shield to go over that to hopefully secure it. And then I'll start working my way back because we still need to actually mount. Let me come around the strut if I can. Actually mount the JB4 itself in the bay. I'm thinking against this strut. Let me see. Thinking against the strut brace here, or the strut tower, is how I'm going to mount it. And then we'd have our lead going back to the OBD2 connector going this way. So to mount the JB4 box in the brake bay, I cleaned off the front wall there of the bay, which is the back of the strut tower. And I'm going to utilize 3M's, let me see if I can get it in the picture there. 3M's dual lock. It's like Velcro, but it's stronger than Velcro. It's double-sided, so you could do like a double-sided tape to hold it in there. But this gives me the ability to, in the future, possibly remove to reposition or to add on something else to the JB4, like the water methanol controller, or I believe, yeah, water methanol controller. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this now. But what you want to do is prep the surfaces of the back of the JB4 and the strut tower with alcohol, rub it down. Don't spray the alcohol on the car, spray it onto the rag and then wipe the spot. It's a bit difficult to see, but right there, you can see the dual lock 3M tape that's installed in the bay. And then I didn't try to line this up myself. I just wiped down the whole back and then I stuck the JB4 to that piece, and when I peeled it off, it located itself. Okay, so I have the JB4 attached, and this is where it's going to stay. I'm going to try to wiggle it a little bit to kind of give you an idea how much it's not moving. I'm pushing on it right now, and it's not going anywhere. So I think it's a pretty good solution, but you have to decide for yourself how you're going to want to do it. I'm going to put the same stuff here on the Bluetooth module and stick it to the cover as well, so that it's all in one place. But coming back around, after I got that attached, I'm going to start using zip ties and then running this wire loom to where it goes naturally to blend into the rest of the wiring on the vehicle. And you can see the cover back on, and then try to button the wiring on the engine up. So under the hood is installed. I got the cowl piece back in. The JB4 is firmly here. Still have the single connector for under the dash, and we'll get to that. But the cover's back on, everything's routed, and I like how it's sitting. Strut brace back on, everything's back together. So now let's move under the dash and get that connector pushed through to connect the JB4 to the OBD2 port. The rest of the wiring for the JB4 is installed. I tried to get good footage of me installing the cable going through the firewall and then up underneath the dash. There really just wasn't, it just wasn't good footage. It just looked like an old aircraft maintainer struggling in tight spaces, which is exactly what it is. This isn't too bad, but you really can't get a view of the grommet next to the power, the brake booster. And then underneath the dash is the same way. I'm going to put in the pictures from the Berger Motorsport instructions of what grommet you're going through to get that connector, that OBD2 connector through. And I wouldn't say it's exactly a grommet as much as it, more like a piece of tape. Once I touched it with a screwdriver, it pierced through like it was a thicker tape. It's not difficult to get through, so that's a positive. The only tip I could give you is to take the actual connector and then tape it to a flathead screwdriver. And once it's taped to that flathead screwdriver, it's easy to push it through and grab it and pull it through. Of course, you're going to be pushing from the inside of the car into the brake booster area, but that would be the way to do it. So next, we need to download the Berger Motorsports app so that we can put it on our phone and then connect to the JB4 via Bluetooth. Okay, so here we are in the car, and I'm going to show you the JB4 mobile app. So you need to go ahead and download the JB4 mobile. Once you get that, you can open it up. And the first time you open it, it'll have you make an account. And after you make an account, it will recognize your vehicle. In this case, recognize a Supra. And you're pretty much good to go. The main screen here with the gauges is customizable, so you can change it to whatever you want it to say. So I have boost. I thought AFR was important, trans temp, oil temp, intake temperatures, and then what map you're on. So this is all configurable for you, but you can connect. And even though the car is not running, it'll still connect to the JB4 because I have it in diagnostic mode. But the car's been sitting here for a little bit, but AFRs are, you know, because the car's not running, and then the temps are accurate. Right now I got it on map 0, but you'll turn around and you can run logs, which I've already done. You can check codes, and then settings. The settings map is where you actually change what map you're on. So right now logged in, but these are the maps. So if you want to look at those real quick, disabled's where I'm at. Map 1 is 3 psi and it's recommended for 91 octane. The second map is 4 psi over 91 to 93, 6. This is absolute target map. Same thing here. This is your custom tuning map. Here's your water methanol map, and then valet. So you can choose all of these. But also, if you go back into settings, advanced tuning. So this is where you would do your custom map 6. Underwater meth is how you would program your water meth. Also, there's inputs for flex fuel. And yeah, you can different app settings, logging settings, unit settings, all those types of things. Hopefully looking to get more into it. But of course, just going to try it out for now, and then get back with you with what I found. So this is future me. Installed the JB4 about 2 weeks ago and done some testing, gathered some data. And before I go over all that data, I want to go ahead and show you the draggy run. This run was done just like the baseline, just like the run after the intake was installed, and also the same as after the catted downpipe. So here's the draggy run. So I want to go over the results of that draggy run. What we ended up getting was 2.03 seconds in the 60 foot, and then 4.21 seconds for our 0 to 60. And then we ran the 8th mile in 7.99 seconds at 91.44 miles per hour. Those results aren't really that good. And it really highlights the problem that was apparent in the previous video, which is traction is a problem. Those numbers are faster than the baseline, but they're not even as good as the performance gains we got from baseline to the air filter install. So I wanted to show you that draggy run, but it kind of highlights that my testing at this point is somewhat flawed to actually show you any performance gains. So I pivoted and decided to do a different way to quantify performance. Decided to go ahead and do 30 to 90 mile an hour runs using the individual maps of the JB4. So before I forget, the draggy run was with map 1. I didn't even do map 2. I was already seeing immediately that this was a flawed method. So doing the 30 to 90 mile an hour draggy runs, I was able to find out with map 0, which is the JB4 disabled, so just what we had before, so it's kind of like our new baseline. I was able to do the 30 to 90 in 6.18 seconds. When I went to map 1, which is an increase of roughly 3 psi over map 0, I was able to do the 30 to 90 in 6.06 seconds. And then with map 2, which is 4 psi over what map 0 is, I was able to do the 30 to 90 in 6.15 seconds. So what does that tell me? First off, that the butt dyno is accurate. The car was already fast in map 0. It's faster for sure in map 1. the car runs smooth, it runs great in map 1, and we were able to get well over a tenth of a second faster in that 30 to 90. But in the map 2, what I could feel was it didn't seem like the car was as responsive. I'm not exactly sure why map 2 wasn't as good as map 1, because I did check with the log, and for sure I did have more boost than I did with map 1. I feel as though maybe I was hitting a little bit of a fuel limit. How to read that exactly is beyond my capability. Adjustments you would make with a JB4 is not the same adjustments that you would make with a full standalone engine management. Give you a brief idea of with standalone engine management. You're going to add fuel or remove fuel per your volume of air to get the correct air-fuel ratio. And then also, once you got your good air-fuel ratio, you can start dialing in ignition advance to get power. And you're not trying to see any knock, but what you're trying to see is good AFR and advance your timing. And that's how you get power without, of course, inducing knock by advancing too much timing. You can't really do that directly. From what I can tell, trying to figure out, looking at map 6, which is the custom tune, it's a bit of a new approach from what I'm used to with a standalone engine management. But I'm assuming what's happening is the factory safeties are still in place with the JB4, and going map 2 with 93 pump gas here in South Carolina, I believe that the factory settings are seeing that we're octane deficient, is what I'm guessing. That's not I'm not an expert, just saying that's what I think is happening, and is why the map 2, even though it got more boost, I'm not really getting more power compared to with map 1, more boost, and the car is clearly quicker. And with the draggy run, I'm assuming you were able to tell that the traction difference between not running the JB4 and running it was a big difference. So I would say the JB4 is definitely making the car more powerful. But I think that it's important that we have expectation management of what the JB4 is going to do, especially with a off-the-shelf maps that are given to you. The map 1 says 91 octane, which I'm assuming means it's good for anybody that has this vehicle and is able to put a JB4 in it. You're going to see a power increase. And then on map 2, it says 91 to 93. That's because some fuels, especially in areas where you can't get 93, it's probably not a map you're going to be able to run by just going your 91 pump gas. And in my case, with 93 octane pump gas in my local area, I really didn't see an increase. So I think where we need to go from here is something to increase our octane level, whether that be water meth injection or running some sort of ethanol content. I'm still kind of going back and forth. I'm not sure what direction to go, but I kind of want to keep it to currently what we're seeing by installing the JB4 on the car. So I would say, is a JB4 worth the $600+ that it costs? The answer I would say is yes. It's a tool. The JB4 is a tool for making more power with your car. Enables you could run water meth injection. You can run ethanol. You'd be able to account for a larger turbo. So there's some benefits there. Additionally, the logging capability. You can log and see what your car is doing. It was really interesting to see in map 0 how my car behaved with the factory tune, and then I could see the differences in the behavior of the car, the fuel trim levels, for instance, that were increasing, the boost level from what the DME was expecting to see compared to what it actually was doing. It was good information to let you know, like, is this safe? Am I doing this the correct way? So I think that capability of the JB4 by itself is also very valuable. Additionally, the gauge setup. You're able to monitor so many things with the JB4, which makes it worth it in my mind. To give a little context, and I don't want to bash this product because it is a good product and really easy to read and permanently installed, but the P3 gauge that you can install on your dash to monitor boost or temperatures and all that kind of stuff, granted it only shows one thing at a time, that by itself is $400. So just gauge setup in the car, $400. You get gauges with your phone with a JB4. So I think you could tell that I think it's worth it. Do I think that the JB4 is a replacement for a ECU flash tune? Absolutely not. It is not a replacement for that. If you're trying to make big power, you're not going to get there, I don't believe. Now, I'm not an expert. You're not going to get there with the JB4. I reached out to Jesse DeBeers, and you hear his name thrown around in videos and forums. Jesse DeBeers, Jesse DeBeers. He is right now the premier Map 6 tuner for the JB4. I reached out to him via instant message, and he got back to me pretty quickly. I was quite impressed. You know, speaking to the grumpy vet, never met me, but he gave very candid feedback on the JB4. I said to him, if down the line, water meth injection, e-content, upgraded turbo, what kind of gains would I be able to see? Would I be able to get into the 500s? His answer is yes, but he felt there was a limit. So if I wanted to get 520 to 550 horsepower, the JB4 could get me there. But beyond that, you really need to look into a flash tune. So I think the JB4 could very well be something that we're going to explore as we potentially water meth, e-content, maybe upgraded turbo. But it's something that I think is worthwhile for you if you are looking for a fast street car and something that is plug and play and you're going to gain power. I know claims are 80 horsepower. I don't believe 80 horsepower is what I'm seeing immediately with Map 1. So don't have any expectations that you're going to plug in Map 1 and you're going to get 80 horsepower. That is not what happened. 30 horsepower? 40 horsepower maybe? Yes. Noticeable? Yes. But not, we're not pushing 500 horsepower right now. So I would say it was something worthwhile for you to get. So I hope you enjoyed this install of the JB4. If you have any questions about the install, the app, the results I got, if you think that maybe I could have done something different, please let me know in the comments of this video or on Facebook. My link to my Facebook page is also in the description. Also, in general, if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Like this video, share it with your friends. Also, we do have a merch store. If you want to get Grumpy Vet Garage merch, the link to that website is also in the description. But thanks for coming and seeing me in my garage, and until next time, have a good one.